Welcome back to P-Storm. We're not playing anything today. Instead, I'm gonna do a little something special for my 25 subscribers special. Yep, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. I'm gonna read Danganronpa 0, which apparently it is supposed to be read before playing Danganronpa 2, so oops. I mean, I've only played the prologue of Danganronpa 2. As of this recording, I still haven't recorded even the first chapter, so I think it's okay. I think it's okay that we skipped ahead a little bit. But without further ado, let's get right into this Danganronpa 0. It is a light novel that was released in, I think, 2011, basically between Danganronpa 1 and 2. And yeah, apparently it's essential to the lore, which is weird because it never got an official English translation, so what I'm reading right now is a fan translation. But, you know, I don't think this is even the original upload of the fan translation. I think it was originally uploaded as a PDF, and what I'm reading right now is like somebody copied and pasted the PDF onto like Wattpad or whatever. But yeah, without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Okay, so Danganronpa 0, Chapter 1. Junko Enoshima despaired. Everything had turned out just the way she expected. Everything had turned out just the way she hoped, and so she despaired. Huh? Is it really that easy? Magma-like heat boiled up deep inside her stomach, gradually swelled inside her body, and exploded when it reached her chest. The explosion escaped her heart and reached every muscle in her body, bringing her to a complete standstill. The sound of splashing water came from the muddy pool she stood in as droplets of water danced through the air. On closer examination, one could notice the water was red. As soon as her body stopped moving, the red droplets of water came raining down, making grotesque patterns on her clothes and skin. Her clothes, painted deep red with blood. Her skin, painted deep red with blood. Her face, painted deep red with blood. Of course, to us, it's pink. But nevertheless, none of this caught her attention. Instead, she started tapping her foot impatiently. It was a magnificent tap. She put every minuscule of strength, body, and soul she had into it, her entire existence. Then, tapping for a while, Junko Enoshima let out an annoyed yell, as fierce as the roar of a feverish, rampaging beast. But that's not enough! Her scream echoed through her surroundings, the noise pouring down as if it was a rock shattering into pieces. She still wasn't done. She continued to scream, More! More! I need even better despair-inducing despair! Junko continued tapping her foot intently. Despair-inducing despair. That was what she was after. She wanted not only for the world to despair, but also for despair worthy of her own self. More, more, more! Despair-inducing despair! She stopped mid-thought. Something clicked inside her head, and she stopped moving. Her face froze in a surprised expression, and she stood petrified as if every muscle in her crimson-painted body stopped working. Then she let out a weak whisper. Oh, I see. A series of gears and switches began moving deep inside her skull, sparking pitch-black thoughts. A certain object floated up inside her mind, a face. It was a face she knew, of course. The face of a fellow student at Hope's Peak Academy. Her body shivered as she started laughing. The shiver gradually spread up to her entire body, and then she started tapping her foot again. This time her tapping resembled a dance. She tapped her foot like a girl who couldn't help feeling joyous, a girl who couldn't stop having fun. Oh, it's so wonderful, so wonderful! And as the face of the person destined to bring her so much wonderful despair kept floating inside her mind, her heart overflowing with a strange feeling that almost felt like love, Junko Enoshima danced to a rhythm of despair. Oh, it's going to be so magnificent, this despair! Laughing ecstatically, the ultimate despair Junko Enoshima continued dancing. She danced as if she was losing her mind. That was the beginning. The beginning of a story that ends in despair. Chapter 2. Hope's Peak Academy, an exclusive government-sanctioned school accepting only students with exceptional abilities. Its stated goal is to raise the future hope of the nation, and for that reason, it became known as the Academy of Hope. It's a source of envy, as it is common knowledge that one can gain great success in life just by being a Hope's Peak graduate. Certainly, many Hope's Peak graduates are now employed in high-ranked positions in every field of the professional world, so that statement is not an exaggeration. There are 2 requirements to becoming a Hope's Peak student. One must currently be enrolled in a high school, and one must be the very best at what they do. Hope's Peak doesn't hold any standard entrance exams, as the Academy insists that the things tested by these kinds of exams are meaningless for its purposes. Instead, students are scouted for by the Academy's staff, who serve as both educators and researchers of extraordinary human ability. Some say Hope's Peak Academy's faculty members are much like parents, who made it their life's mission to find talent and nurture it in their children. Right now, every member of that extraordinary faculty, as well as the Academy itself, is facing an unprecedented, unparalleled crisis. The Hope's Peak Academy faculty building is located in the Academy's eastern quarter, and is the only building on campus that students are forbidden to enter. The corridors of that building, usually busy with staff members going back and forth, were now empty and engulfed in an unnatural silence. The laboratories, the private rooms, and the luxurious personal offices had all been abandoned. Every man and woman who usually occupies these places were currently gathered in a single place. Meeting Room 13. Hope's Peak Academy's largest meeting room is located on the top floor of the faculty building and has a maximum capacity of over 300. Nevertheless, with every single faculty member attending, it was completely packed. Not a single empty seat remained next to the long tables lined across the room. However, for such a huge crowd, the room was relatively quiet. Only a single person's voice could be heard, the voice of Hope's Peak Academy's headmaster, Jin Kirigiri. He faced the assembled faculty members from a position at the foremost table, and read from a printout that he held in his hand. He spoke in an unaffected tone of voice, a blank expression on his face. The words printed on the paper came out of his mouth as if he was nothing more than an automated machine or artificial intelligence was reading them out. As far as Jin was concerned, that was his most important duty. It didn't matter how out of the ordinary the subject on hand was. No, he didn't have any time to waste faced with the current state of confusion and unanswered questions. If they did have time, there were much more important things they should have been doing. A voice suddenly arose from the crowd. "Are you saying we're gonna cover it up?" Jin raised his head and saw 300 people staring at him intently, waiting for a response. It wasn't a piercing stare, it was much, much more uncomfortable than that. 300 people stared at him as if they were one entity, and Jin felt every last hair on his body tingling. He turned his head toward the 4 people sitting to his right, trying to escape the stare. They were stationed at the same frontmost table he was, their faces unusually wrinkled. Their eyes were closed, making those wrinkly faces even wrinklier. From Jin's position, it almost looked like the 4 faces in front of him was one giant, huge wrinkle. The 4 members of Hope's Peak Academy's steering committee looked as if they were about to give up. An unintentional bitter smile appeared on Jin's face. "So that's how it's going to be. Oh well. It's not as if I expected anything else." With those feelings festering inside his heart, Jin turned back toward the crowd's stare. He put the paper aside. He was going to use his own words from now on. "Let me make it perfectly clear," he emphasized. "We've reached this decision after putting a lot of thought into the matter at the Hope's Peak Academy steering meeting that took place earlier today." He felt the temperature in the room turning tepid. It was probably because every faculty member's body had grown stiff in attention. Jin sipped from the cup in his hand and continued. "We understand, of course, how extremely irregular this decision is." The wrinkly faces were much a part of the "we" he talked about, as he did not move a centimeter. It was as if they knew from the very beginning that he was going to take the situation into his own hands. "Make no mistake, We are not covering this incident up to escape responsibility. If I could end it all here and now by simply taking responsibility, I would do so in a heartbeat. Unfortunately, this particular incident cannot be dealt with that easily. It doesn't even matter if each and every one of us takes responsibility. We're dealing with a problem that exists in an entirely different dimension. Jin stopped for a moment and finished his glass of water in a single gulp, trying to remain calm. Don't get me wrong, I don't think we're completely blameless here. If we were, that parade out there would not be taking place right now. Jin pointed a finger at the curtained window. Several people turned to look at it, a severe expression on their faces. That parade has been growing larger and larger lately. The people in it think we're all despicable. Their opinion is not completely unfounded. Jin paused and moved his gaze across the room, looking at each of the faculty members' faces as if what he was about to say was personally directed at them individually. Nevertheless, I refuse to believe Hope's Peak Academy's thesis, that talent itself is humanity's first and foremost hope, is wrong. You must realize that if information about this incident leaves the walls of this school, we're likely to lose it all. As far as I'm concerned, that would be a gigantic loss for the human race. Every one of our successful graduates I've spoken of feels the same way. At the mention of Hope's Peak's graduates, the crowd stirred a little. That's the reason I and the members of Hope's Peak Academy's steering committee reached our decision. We have concluded that this incident shouldn't be made public after all. He took a peek at the old men, but they remained still. Their blank expressions made it look as if what was going on did not concern them. As I said before, I know more than anyone how irregular this decision is. Nevertheless, we have a duty, both as educators and as scientists. The duty to protect talent. Should human talent become the target of public hostility, it will be a great tragedy. Furthermore, there's one more thing I want you all to remember. The 300 faculty members waited in attention for Jin's next words. The crimes committed may be terrible, but it doesn't change the fact that that student carries a very special brand of hope we all raised on our own. The color of the faculty's eyes changed in an instant. They did not stir anymore. Everyone sat in complete silence. No one objected. No one could object. His words were narrow-minded, but they reflected the opinions of everyone in the room. They were all acting both as educators and as scientists, researching human talent. And just like any other scientist becoming obsessed with their area of research, the staff of Hope's Peak Academy were obsessed with talent. Anyone who did not share that obsession did not belong in Hope's Peak. That's why they listened to Jin's words and made their decision. They had to protect their thesis. They had to protect the future they believed in. They had to protect the hope they believed in. And so, they would do their best to cover up Hope's Peak Academy's biggest, most awful event. Chapter 3. A yellow cat peeked out from the thicket to the side of the pavement. It stepped slowly out of the swaying grass and into the road, waving its long tail as it turned its eyes in anticipation toward me. However, its expression soon turned to alertness, and then to fear. The cat, having seen me skipping merrily down the road towards it, must have thought I was about to trample it. It escaped swiftly back into the bushes in panic. I didn't care at all. I bathed in the light of the hot sun, let the wind flutter my skirt, and continued my obscene merry skip onward down the road. I was in Hope's Peak Academy's eastern quarter, near the courtyard. Many newly built facilities were lined up around me, as well as several that were still under construction. As I skipped down the road that twisted between them, I took no special notice of any dirty cats or of my classmates, studying and fraternizing all around. Nor did I derive any happiness from the light touch of the sun after a long stay indoors. No, I skipped down the road with nothing but my destination in my mind. Not that I'm the kind of girl who'd go skipping around thoughtlessly. I had a reason. I'm going to meet the boy I like best in the world. That said, my reason may have been a good one, but no student in their right mind would go skipping down the road in a campus of a school as high a pedigree as Hope's Peak Academy. Therefore, it wasn't surprising that other students who happened to walk by looked at me oddly, but that really has nothing to do with me. Nothing in the world could stop my skipping. Not a crying girl, not a couple fighting, not a student in a wheelchair that has come to a standstill, not even an anemic student who's fallen down. One thought alone moved my body. I want to meet him. I love him so much. I skipped so obscenely that one would probably find it surprising if all of a sudden I sprouted wings and flew up toward the sky. I continued down the road, but... Huh? I suddenly came to a stop. Which way should I go? Which way, Western man? I looked around in confusion, and I realized I didn't recognize any of the landmarks around me. My heart started beating loudly. No, everything's fine. I calmed myself down and removed a notebook from the backpack I was wearing. On the back page of the notebook, the following sentence was written. You're looking for the neurology lab on the 3rd floor of the biology building in Hope's Peak Academy's eastern quarter. I felt a refreshing wind of relief passing through my body. Yeah, that's right, the biology building. But where is that biology building anyway? My heart went noisy once more. Everything's fine. No need to worry. I nervously flipped through the notebook as if acting on instinct, and my eyes stopped on a page with a crude drawing of a map. Above it, the following was written. This is a diagram of Hope's Peak Academy's eastern quarter. Well done, me. Without thinking, I struck a victorious pose. Soon I was standing on the raised edge of the fountain that decorated the center of the courtyard, comparing the buildings around me with the map. Literature building, science building, physics building, art building, math building, PE building, linguistics building, staff building. As cold droplets from the fountain kept hitting my thighs, I looked for my destination, the biology building, as if I'd never been there before. Ah, it's right over there. I finally found the square building, identifiable by its light green walls. It looked exactly like the note about the biology building in my notebook described it. Right. I jumped down from the fountain's edge and started running. Some boys in the area looked at me in surprise. Maybe my skirt flew up for a second during my vigorous leap, but that really has nothing to do with me. It kinda does. Anyway, I must reach my destination before I forget. My ferocious dash led me inside the biology building, where I soon discovered a flight of stairs at the back of the lobby. I didn't lose momentum even for a second as I ran up the stairs to the 3rd floor. When I reached it, I ran down the corridor, checking the signs next to the doors lined on its walls. Finally, at the very end, I found the sign that read Neurology Lab. I hastily stopped in my tracks. After a quick breath, I checked my hair and my smile in a hand mirror. Yep, cute as always. Flashing that same wonderful smile and shouting, "G'day!" in my brightest voice, I opened the lab's door, and that's when it happened. Oh, she's supposed to be Australian? Alright, I guess it's time to switch it up. I was trying to be professional about this reading, but let's change it up now. Something flew just past my ear, making a wind-cutting whooshing sound. Eek! I turned my head in panic and saw a small blade embedded in the wall behind me, still vibrating from the impact. I jumped back. Why is there a scalpel flying through the air? I screeched. Don't shout. A chiding voice answered back from inside the lab. The moment I heard that voice, my heart started beating faster. Thump, thump went my heart as I looked inside the lab. A boy was lying on top of a bed installed in the center of the room. You're late. That's unseemly for someone as ugly as you. A dirty white shirt was sloppily thrown over his body. He was lying face up, his face concentrated on a thick manga magazine he held in his hand. He didn't look at me once. You're also too loud for someone as ugly as you. Speaking of, someone as ugly as you being scared of flying scalpels is weird too. Wait a second! I stopped him, my voice showing signs of panic. I could report you for discrimination if you keep calling me ugly, you know. Who are you going to report me to? The National Japanese Ugly People's Association? That kind of organization would be guilty of discrimination just by existing. The manga-reading boy who kept calling me ugly was the person in charge of this neurology lab, the doctor in charge of my treatment, my childhood friend, the boy I liked most in the world. He's the ultimate neurologist, Yasuke Matsuda, I think. Oh, I see. You're a member of that association, aren't you? Is that why you're so angry? I'm not. I'm not even ugly. Well, on second thought, you're right. You aren't ugly. My chest swelled in pride and I flashed a complacent smile. Yep, that's right. I even checked in my mirror just now and you're super ugly. Super ugly? My shock was considerable, but it didn't take me long to recover enough to come up with a sharp response. Liar, I'm not super ugly. If anything, I'm world-class cute. Yasuke continued to ignore the fuss I was making, his eyes never leaving the magazine. I don't care what the world thinks. Ugliness is subjective and I'm free to make my own judgment, he said, as if the matter at hand didn't concern him at all. So tell me where you think I'm ugly. I'll go fix it up in surgery, I said in desperation. Is it my eyes? My nose? Maybe my mouth? How about my eyebrows? You forgot to mention your heart. But I can't fix my heart in surgery. You kind of can. Is that so? Poor you. Honestly, you're beyond help. Both your face and your brain aren't any good. I think you can have some success if you make yourself an object of sympathy, though. Go stand in front of a train station and beg for change or something. I'm sure you'll make lots of money. I dropped my shoulders, crestfallen, then let my hands drop toward the floor and my body droop limply. I was beaten up. By the way, who are you? Eh? I raised my head in surprise at his unexpected question. I can't really tell just by the voice. Are you saying you don't know who you were talking to until now? It's your fault. You never told me who you were. I didn't, but you can recognize me by my look, can't you? See, it's me. I don't have to look at you, said Yasuke, still absorbed in his book. I just got to the interesting part. Don't have time. Isn't that just a manga magazine? So what? If you're gonna ask what's more important, me or the manga, the answer's the same as always. It's the manga. I see. If the answer's the same as always, that means manga was always more important to you than me. That's cruel. I didn't want to know that. That's a fine observation, but please just answer the question. Okay. Pressured, I took the notebook out of my backpack once more and observed the front cover. Ryoko Otonashi's memory notebook. As soon as I saw that title, I remembered. I remembered my own name. It seems my name is Ryoko Otonashi? I only know one person stupid enough not to be sure of her own name. I think you're talking about me, probably. Yasuke let out a big sigh. Huh. So you weren't someone suspicious after all. Are you trying to say you threw that scalpel idea because you mistook me for someone suspicious or something? Exactly. I'm not the kind of person who throws sharp objects at acquaintances after all. Liar! I pointed my index finger straight at Yasuke. I mean, before you confirmed who I am, you told me I was late and I was too loud for an ugly person. That's proof you knew who I was. Yasuke loudly snapped his manga magazine shut. He leveraged the bed's cushion to jump out of it, and walked briskly toward me until there was no distance between us. What? Why? He looked straight into my eyes. My body grew hotter by the second. You remember that? Huh? Yasuke clutched my shoulders strongly with his hands. He pushed his face close to mine. Do you remember me calling you ugly when you got here? He asked slowly. Seeing Yasuke pressing so close to me with such a serious expression on his face made my heartbeat increase tenfold. I think so? Guess my condition's a little better today. Just as the tone of my voice started warming up, he released his hold on my shoulders and turned around to face away from me. Then, still looking away, he whispered as if talking to himself. Is your condition really better? Or is it worse? What do you mean? It's nothing. Yasuke shook his head and started speaking in a commanding tone. Go lie on the bed. We need to begin today's treatment. With my mind still reverberating from the beats of my heart, I removed my backpack and set it aside. Then I lay down on the bed that was occupied by Yasuke up until a few minutes ago. As I let my body soak into the soft mat, my nose was filled with the scent of the sheets, Yasuke's scent. I sniffed his scent as I felt the remains of his body warmth engulf my body, and felt as happy as if he was lying next to me, hugging me softly. I laughed in an instinctive happy laugh. Something funny? Yasuke grimaced as he gave me a hard look. I realize that's the way dung beetles laugh, but even though you are one, it's just too gross. Can you at least try to laugh normally? Yo. What's normal about that? That's even grosser. Shocked, Yasuke rolled a trolley noisily from the center of the lab. On top of it were several complicated, important-looking machines. He pushed the trolley up to the bed, said, "Here we go!" and started operating one of the machines with a tense expression on his face. I found myself staring at him work. Silky soft hair, long almond eyes peeking through it, long feminine eyelashes, a pointed jaw,
Small pale lips, long white fingers.
Stop looking at me, ugly. It's creepy.
And a shocked tongue. That's right. That's my Yosuke. I rolled to my side and wrote a note in my notebook.
You don't have to write everything down, Dung Beetle.
But if I don't write it, I'll forget it all. Yosuke let out an exaggerated sigh.
Honestly, your brain's like a bottomless bucket.
A bottomless bucket. It wasn't another one of his cruel jokes. It was true. I forget everything I see and hear after a very short time. I don't know the reason. If I ever knew, I've forgotten it. But whatever the reason may be, my forgetfulness is not normal. Of that I'm certain. But it's not like I'm forgetting things because I want to. There's a sickness in my brain, right? I can't help it, so be nice to me.
No, I don't think we could just call it sickness and be done with it.
Yosuke shook his head lightly.
The human memory is a complicated thing, and there's much we don't know about it. It's still very much a black box. Your situation isn't just a simple sickness that can be dealt with like any other.
As he explained, he stuck suction pads all over my head and face. The cords running down the suction pads were attached to the machines on the trolley.
There's a part of the human memory that we call episodic memory. It stores your personal experiences, what you see and hear. The area of the brain responsible for it is called the hippocampus. If something goes wrong there, the brain experiences difficulties in creating and storing new episodes. There's a famous old example about a patient who had the hippocampus removed in surgery and lost all ability to form new memories. After that happened, there's been much research done about the exact role of the hippocampus in relation to memory. That said, even if your hippocampus is malfunctioning, you won't lose your ability to remember or learn procedural memory tasks such as riding a bicycle or using tools. You won't remember the episodes related to those tasks though. For example, you may be able to remember how to ride a bicycle, but you won't remember how you came to be able to ride them. That's it in a nutshell.
I see. So that's why even though I'm very forgetful, I still know how to read and write in my notebook. I held the notebook in question with both my hands and nodded thoughtfully. Ryoko Otonashi's memory notebook. That notebook was memory itself for me. My one and only indispensable trusted item. As long as I have it, I can probably live a regular life just like regular people. That said, it seems that this school's a little late in accommodating the memory challenged, and that I'm still facing many difficulties on that front. For example, during exams it's forbidden to look in notebooks, which caused my grades to plummet and got me suspended from... What? I've been suspended from school? I yelled, looking up from the notebook. Just because my grades are bad? That's not fair.
You should be glad they haven't kicked you out completely. I had to negotiate with the school to make that happen.
You stood up for me? My heart skipped a beat. I'm so happy. You really are fond of me, aren't you?
Yosuke snorted. I just need you here as a research subject.
Nevertheless, Yosuke went out and helped me, and that's good enough.
Your case seems to involve a failure in the retrieval of long-term memory. I think something went wrong with the synapses connecting the neurons somewhere in your brain. But I need more time to investigate the problem more thoroughly before I can really understand what's going on.
I don't understand most of what you said, but at least I haven't been expelled. If I get expelled now, where even would I go? I don't have anywhere to go outside this school. I've forgotten everything else. I don't even remember my family, or any old friends I may or may not have. If I get expelled, I'll also end up away from you, Yosuke. Being separated from Yosuke was the thing I feared most. My body shivered just a little speaking the words out loud.
You shouldn't worry too much. Yosuke turned to face me and spoke bluntly. You're a valuable research subject, and I don't plan to lose you. At least not at the moment.
But you might change your mind later. I'm happy, but I have to remember not to be too much of a burden from now on.
Don't complain. You should be honored that you're participating in such important research. Yosuke chided me and then continued his explanation. In order to understand why memory loss occurs, we need to understand the core elements of our brain's memory storage apparatus. Once we make advances in that field, it opens the doors to a wide array of possibilities, like improving the quality and longevity of a human memory, or developing medicine to prevent memory loss. In the future, we might even be able to treat memories like we do data on a hard drive. We'll be able to create devices that back them up or destroy parts of them freely. There's already research going on that front abroad. They managed to erase Labyrinth's long-term memory by manipulating their M-zeta kinase enzyme.
I see. In fact, I didn't see it all, but for the time being I had to be agreeable. In any case, I'm just super happy that I could be of any help to my beloved Yosuke.
Your brain's empty, and so are the words it produces. You really are an empty woman.
I didn't quite understand if he was serious or just making fun of me, but that's just how Yosuke is. He always insisted I should take care of myself. He may be cold to me and he may be blunt, but he doesn't treat me with fake sympathy. It's depressing when people do, so I'm grateful for his attitude. I may be empty, but I'm still super happy. I raised my voice, refusing to be discouraged, but Yosuke's reply was almost a whisper.
Well, I can't deny you're helping me out here. One doesn't get his hands on such a rare case very often.
Did you say rare? I like the sound of that word. I felt as happy as if I was being praised. So what's rare about me? Tell me, tell me, tell me.
Stop acting like a child.
Yosuke let out a big laugh.
I don't want to tell you. You just get annoyingly excited.
What's so wrong with that? Tell me, tell me. My insistence finally paid off.
You don't often see someone possessing such a superb, brain-intensive talent as you do affected by memory loss. That's why you're such a rare case.
Talent? Brain-intensive? Nothing came to my mind.
It's fine if you don't remember it. It's really irritating when you use that talent of yours. I'm warning you. Don't ever try to use it on me. You got that, dung beetle?
I didn't quite get what he meant, but his dung beetle comment stung my heart a little bit, so I couldn't help but nod in agreement. Well, I don't really care so long as I get to spend these intimate moments with you, Yosuke. I should be thankful that there's sickness in my brain.
I told you, it's not really a sickness.
Yosuke stuck even more suction cups to my head, as if he was trying to hide my grinning face.
Nevertheless, it's admirable that you can take this so easily. Your condition's no laughing matter. Shouldn't you be at least a little worried?
Eh? What's there to be worried about?
I mean,
said Yosuke in amazement.
Aren't you worried whether these symptoms are ever going to go away?
Eh? His words surprised me. This wasn't like Yosuke at all, asking a question like that in such a serious voice. I'm not worried at all. I laughed, trying to lighten the mood. I mean, the only me I can remember is the me that's lying here in this bed at this very moment. I can't remember anything from before I lost like memory. So it's not like I have anything to compare it to. That's why I don't see my forgetfulness as a disadvantage. It's just a part of who I am.
You don't see it as a disadvantage, but aren't you even worried about how this memory loss started or when it's going to end?
Not at all. In fact, I'm much more worried that if I suddenly get cured, I won't be able to see you anymore, Yosuke. The room suddenly turned quiet. After the silence continued for a while, Yosuke broke it with a whisper.
You don't have to worry, he said, his voice suddenly dark. I won't let this treatment end.
I looked up, the face peeking through his pitch-black hair was stiff, lost in thought. Yosuke? As soon as I called to him, he straightened up and turned back to me.
No, it's nothing.
He shook his head as if trying to smooth things over. Then he returned to the machine and continued working as if nothing happened.
Well, nothing good can come out of being too pessimistic about your symptoms. That's one case where your natural cheerfulness is actually helpful.
Yep, my thinking's very flexible after all.
Your head's flexible, that's for sure. You can't even remember your friends or family before you lost your memory, and yet you aren't even slightly concerned.
But forgetting them is just like I never had them at all. That's why everyone I forgot, they really have nothing to do with me anymore.
Those words again.
Yosuke winked for an awfully long time.
If you keep saying things have nothing to do with you, you're going to end up with nothing left inside.
I'll be fine. I'll always have you, Yosuke. I stuck my chest out in pride. You're the only person I can remember, so as long as you're here I won't get lonely.
You probably linked me with the process of coming here to receive this treatment in your procedural memory. That's why you can remember me.
No, that's not it at all.
Yeah, I know,
said Yosuke, trying to calm me before I became too flustered. He continued attaching suction cups to my face, stopping from time to time to scratch his chest, which I would catch a glimpse of through his dirty white shirt. Does he really know what I meant? He probably just said that to shut me up. I don't think he even believed me when I said I remembered him. But it's true. I don't remember him in the usual sense of the word remember, of course, but I didn't lie when I said I do. I remember Yosuke. I forget him, and yet I remember. I'm not talking about our conversations or what we did together. For those kinds of memories, I have to rely on my notebook. No, what I remember is something much more special and important. It's not memories, but feelings. Not using my head, but using my heart. What I remember about Yosuke is pure emotion. Every time I see him, I feel the beat of my heart before my head even realizes what's going on. That beat tells me one very important thing. For me, his very existence is precious, one of a kind. That's why, no matter how forgetful I become, I'll never forget him. There's a connection deeper than memories between the two of us. For me, Yosuke is special. He's extraordinary. He's a miracle.
Shut up already, will you?
Eh? I came back to my senses confused. You heard me? I was about to jump out of my bed, but Yosuke pinned my head back down.
You're gonna get the cord disconnected. What are you, human waste?
He said cruelly, as if I tried to disconnect his cord on purpose. But I never said a word. Were you talking about how loud my heartbeat is? I can't help that. If my heart stops, I'd die.
I wasn't talking about you, but I was referring to the noise outside.
Outside? Yosuke turned up his chin, pointed to the window. When I listened intently, I could indeed hear the unusual noise coming from outside. Jeering voices, angry voices, hooting voices, reactionary voices full of anger, the kind of voices that would make the earth rumble. There's an assembly of unpleasant voices that would make your face frown instinctively. What is that?
It's the parade. They're getting louder every day.
A parade? You don't mean that parade?
Liar. You don't remember it at all.
Yosuke pinched my forehead and continued explaining. His face was grim.
It's essentially a demonstration, but the teaching staff, or maybe I should say the old geezers in the steering committee, don't like the sound of that word, so they decided to call it a stupid name like a parade.
But isn't a parade the exact opposite of a demonstration?
That's exactly why they chose that name.
But why a parade?
It's the guys from the preparatory school.
Preparatory school? I've never heard such a thing, or have I?
You don't remember, of course. Your head's oversized, so I guess it can't be helped.
Wait, calling a girl oversized is sexual harassment. If this was the Edo period, you'd be beheaded by now. Eat! My head, which was on its way up from the bed, was pushed back down.
Hope's Peak Academy is not a traditional learning facility like other schools. They provide education for the talented, but at the same time they research that talent. The teaching staff aren't simple educators. They're also scientists who research human talent. But scientists are a bothersome bunch. The more they research, the more they want to research even deeper. Therefore, there's something they never have enough of. Do you know what that is?
It's money. Oh, right. My chance to find the answer on my own was gone, so that's the least I could say.
Up until recently, Hope's Peak Academy was a small-scale facility that could survive on government subsidiary and graduate donations. Their research was often blocked by a lack of resources, though. But the steering committee was not satisfied with the state of the research, so they instituted the preparatory school system in order to bring in more money.
I nodded enthusiastically to show I was listening.
The gist of it is that us Ultimates are affiliated with the main school, but there's now a separate educational facility attached to it called a preparatory school. That school is located on the west quarter of the campus, while the main school remains here in the east quarter, so we don't actually intermingle much. I heard there's not much that's the same over there. They don't scout their students and rely on a regular entrance exam to choose among applicants. Their teaching staff is chosen the same way. Our teachers are the scientists who work and live at the school, while they have regular teachers coming from outside.
So it's just a regular high school, isn't it?
Exactly. Nevertheless, there was a flood of applications. A brand name is a powerful thing.
Yosuke almost spat the words out.
People didn't care that it was just a preparatory school. The prestigious Hope's Peak Academy had finally opened its doors to the public. People are sheep. They're drawn to a name, and the school took advantage of that to get more money. Thanks to that, the school went through a sudden growth spurt. We suddenly have research buildings that can make any university jealous. No one was prepared for that. In just a year or two, Hope's Peak Academy became a school of an entirely different scale. The power of the steering community also grew accordingly.
But that almost seems like fraud.
It doesn't just seem like one.
Yosuke's mouth twisted in a bitter smile.
Right now, Hope's Peak Academy is set up like a third world country's pyramid class system. The multitude of students in the preparatory school exists to support the few ultimates in the main one. It seems like they have some kind of bogus system in place for exceptional students to transfer to the main school, but I've never heard of anyone actually succeeding. Our teachers probably don't think any of them deserve it.
That's not how educators should behave.
You're right, but it's exactly how scientists do. They don't care about anything but their research subject. It's just the same, in fact. It's just that their subject is human talent.
But it's so unfair. I puffed my cheeks.
Of course it is. If it wasn't, there wouldn't be any need for a demonstration, would there? But still.
Yosuke suddenly cut his speech short. His tone of voice changed to a cautious one.
I don't think they could have set this all up on their own. It has to be the result of someone else's scheme. That's how I feel.
Huh? Yosuke narrowed his eyes and looked outside the window. His look was so grim that I hesitated to speak.
Hey, Ugly.
After a short while, he turned back to me, as if remembering something.
Write this conversation down properly in your notebook. Don't brush it off as having nothing to do with you. Those preparatory school students don't think much of us. I don't think they're going to attack you or anything, but it's better to be cautious.
Okay, I understand, I replied. I noticed the suction cups stuck to my head and face were making it difficult to move my mouth.
I need you to stay still for a while. I don't mind if you sleep.
Yosuke stepped away from my line of sight. But I'm not sleepy at all, I replied in an insecure voice. Yosuke's voice answered me from the other side of the room.
I can give you sleeping pills. A dozen should probably be enough.
Eh? Isn't that a lethal dose? You sure it's alright? As soon as my uneasiness grew even deeper, Yosuke appeared in front of me again. He was now wearing a school jacket on top of his dirty shirt.
If something happens to my machines while I'm gone, you're dead.
You going somewhere?
I have a little business to take care of. Anyway, if something happens to my machines, you're dead.
He was serious enough to repeat the warning twice. I wouldn't mind being killed if it's you who kills me.
It'd be troublesome for me. I hate gore.
I didn't think it was such a good quality for someone who studies the human brain, but I didn't say anything. In that case, if I'll stay here and wait like a good girl, let's go see a movie together later.
A movie?
You know, like that one. I flipped through the pages of my notebook, searching for memories about movies. Here's one. It's about two robbers, Harry and Marv, sneaking into the McAllister household.
You talking about Home Alone? Seems you've forgotten, but you bugged me to see it with you before, and we did.
Really? In that case, I continued flipping through the notebook, but couldn't find any mention of any other movies. Seems I was particularly interested in that movie. I could blame myself all day, but it'd get me nowhere. Well, it's a masterpiece, so I'm sure it's still interesting even if you watch it again.
It's certainly not a bad movie, but it's not the kind of movie I'd want to watch again and again.
So what kind of movie do you?
Please don't ask me questions fit for the diary of a middle school girl.
I felt his distasteful glare staring down at me. But I didn't give up. Let's do it. If you pretend you're watching for the first time, it's going to be fun. I read a little more in my notebook. According to this, I thought that little boy who played the main character, Macaulay Culkin, is super cute. There's a cute boy in this movie, isn't that exciting?
And why exactly do you think that would excite me? Also, that actor isn't named as if he's a brand of lingerie. It's Macaulay Culkin.
Haha, it says right here that I thought he was so cute I wanted to adopt him.
You only say that because you don't know how he looks today. He underwent quite a transformation.
Transformation, huh? Yosuke narrowed his almond eyes at me even more than usual, and swiped his bangs away from his forehead.
Just be a good girl and go to sleep.
Seems he was tired of me trying to postpone his departure. Wait, don't go. Nevertheless, now panicking, I tried to stop him again. I don't want you to go. I'd be lonely. Don't leave me here alone. We haven't seen each other in a long time, have we?
A long time?
Yosuke stopped in his tracks.
Why do you think we haven't seen each other in a long time?
Huh?
I'm asking why you think we haven't seen each other in a long time.
Yosuke faced away from me as he spoke. His voice was tinted with pain and made me feel anxious. I can tell by the rate my heart was beating, I think.
So if you see me every day, your heart doesn't beat as fast when I'm near?
No, that's not it.
We did meet just yesterday, you know.
We did?
It's not surprising that you forgot.
Yosuke's back curled forward as if he was dejected.
I guess you were just lying when you said I'm the only one you can remember.
Wait, I'll remember in a second. In haste, I flipped through the pages of my notebook. I went through them all from back to back, but I couldn't find any memories of me and Yosuke meeting the day before. It was a complete failure. When I looked away from the notebook, Yosuke was already gone. Pfft, I've been had. There was nothing more I could do about it. I guess there's nothing I can do but sleep. Not that that's such a bad thing. At the very least, when I'm asleep I can lose myself inside my dreams. I can escape this lonely world that doesn't have Yosuke in it. I can probably even meet Yosuke in my dreams. With that thought deep in my heart, I rolled to my side, careful not to disturb the cords all over my head, and sniffed the pillow that still had traces of Yosuke's scent. I sniffed it as if I was a puppy, and rubbed my cheeks against it, purring happily. Then I closed my eyes. As my vision blacked out, my other senses sharpened. Before long, the only thing remaining in my world was Yosuke's scent. No, that wasn't the only thing. I could also hear voices, interfering with mine, Yosuke's private world. An assembly of emotional, unsettling voices. Anxiety washed over my entire body just listening to them, so I blocked my ears in panic. It has nothing to do with me after all. Nevertheless, I couldn't sleep. I felt like my body forgot how to. I want to fall asleep. I want to sleep inside this world that doesn't have Yosuke in it. I want to meet him again. Yosuke, 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 Yosuke. And then, as I dreamed about dreaming about Yosuke, I slowly fell into a blissful sleep.
Alright. Jesus, that was over an hour? Christ. Okay, well. If you enjoyed this video for how little video there actually was in it, no further actions required on your part. If you got suggestions for other things you'd like me to do, let me know in the comments. I'll see you next episode. I don't know, I might read the rest of this book on the channel, I might not. Who knows? But I'll see you later.